Ay, magandang oops, nagka-record na. Have to turn this off. There you go. Magandang gabi. Ako po si Trixie Cruz-Angeles. Ito po ang Luminous. Alam ko nanggigigil kayo mapag-usapan yung interview ni Madam Leni. But before that, let's start with may dalawang topics that we really have to talk about. So, one is yung labas ko. One is the yung balita tungkol sa Facebook. I understand, I'm not sure if TP already discussed this, pero medyo, yan. Ang balita lumalabas, pinadala sa akin yung text message and it said, Sir, Leni team had a meeting with FD senior officials, including Philippine Public Policy Manager Chris Kujupili, Head of Politics and Government Outreach, Roy Tan and Kylie Mooney. They plan to suspend massive BBM supporters accounts 1 week before campaign period starts. That's now. Oh, I'm sorry. That's next week. Kasi campaign period for nationals begins February 9. So they plan to suspend massive BBM supporters accounts 1 week before campaign period starts. A middleman helping Leni team reach FB is closely connected with the US. I suppose with Facebook US. Okay, this is a little, dahil ang saya-saya na itong mga usapan natin dito, 'di ba? Madalas tayo we have so many of these talks and we post and all of that. And we talk about the national pastime, politics and politics watching. And one thing that we might be forgetting, baka nakakalimutan natin, is to protect our accounts. Paano natin gagawin yan? First of all, you protect from the hacking. So you have the double notification for every time you log in. There's a notice that somebody's logging in and that there's a way to verify using your phone. The other is to watch what we're posting. Okay? Mag-ingat nga. Sarah's Angels po. Hindi Sarah forever. Yan. Okay, for Vice President pala. Okay. So anyway, yon two-factor authentication. Thank you kay Paul. So that's one, you prevent hacking. The second is to also be mindful of what we're posting. Okay, mag-iingat tungkol dun sa pagpo-post natin. Be careful about fake news posts because they can not only just get you suspended, but they can take down your accounts. So, why am I saying this? Because madalas ang battleground dito for the hearts and minds sa election is no longer traditional media dahil ang conversations are happening in social media. So mahalaga na protektahan ang mga accounts because your reach is already set. Lalo-lalo na kung may significant kayo na followings at let's say if you have followings of 5,000 or more, significant na po yun. So kailangan protektahan niyo po and be careful about what you're posting. Fortunately, ang libel laws natin allow us to make commentary on our public officials. Pero iba yung standards ng Facebook and ang ang concern dito is with regard to Facebook. So, be careful lang that what you're posting is not fake news kasi yun ang malakas makapagpa-take down ng account. Fake news tag pag di pabor sa kanila kahit video pa yan. Well, yes. But like I said, let's be mindful. So, mag-iingat, lalong-lalo na kung nagre-repost tayo ng something that has already been marked or as fake news somewhere else. If you're posting about, mag-iingat ha, yung pinakamahigpit, of course, are postings about COVID. Right? So, So just be mindful of that. Please take care of your accounts. Please watch what you're posting. I cannot tell you what to post or what not to post, but I only want you to be very, very careful about the post is if you're not sure about the authenticity, you're not sure if the post has basis or not, ingat lang, wag basta-basta magpo-post. Okay? Just protect your accounts because the source for this news, yung nagbalita sa akin ito, sila din yung nagbalita tungkol dun sa mga takedown of accounts on Twitter and so on. So medyo uh, swak yung information na nanggagaling dito. Alright? Next, yung nakasuhan daw, well, the House, Congress, nagrekomenda ng filing of charges dito kay uh, Secretary Duque at saka former FDA head Eric Domingo, Dr. Eric Domingo. Uh, this is a recommendation for charging. Hindi ibig sabihin nito makakasuhan na. So recommendation to charge could also be taken as an ano ba yan? A recommendation to begin or to open an investigation. At ang mag-iimbestiga dyan will be the OMB, Ombudsman. Ang purpose nito, ang reason kung bakit nire-recommenda itong charges for corruption dito kay Health Secretary Duque at saka former FDA head Eric Domingo ay dahil dun sa discrepancy between the way they treat ivermectin and the way they treat remdesivir. Now, buti sana kung pareho yun. Well, if you're going to be completely objective about it, the more reliable scientific sources say both of them don't work. And yet, uh, the DOH and the FDA have recommended the continuous use of remdesivir even the WHO says it has no longer been proven to work. So as opposed to the way they were acting towards remdesivir. Now, please take note, disclaimer lang, I am not pro remdesivir or anything like that. I will still follow the science. Pero remdesivir here, sorry, I'm also not pro ivermectin. But ivermectin dito ay ginagamit bilang pang basehan para ma-compare yung ivermectin with the way they were both treated. So magkaiba yon. Ano pa ba? Alright. May nagtatanong tungkol dun sa sa assignment of, how do you call this? Frequencies. Tomorrow is Thursday, i-discuss yan ni Attorney Larry Gadon when he goes to Carambola tomorrow. Ayokong i-preempt yung storya niya. He says that there's a DOJ opinion, of course, at saka meron din siyang opinion that this is completely legal for him. Right? For me, I understand that this is a regular practice. Hindi necessarily binibid out yung mga frequencies. They can also sometimes be assigned. Ayun, sabi ni Diamond Dizon, ni-report ng Pink Taliban yung TikTok ko with 30,000 followers dahil lang nagpapahayag ako ng facts about BBM. O, yun. So, yan, your social media accounts, please be very careful with them. Ang problema is when you say you're reporting facts, be sure you're ready to indicate your source. That way, it will be much more difficult to allege it as fake or, or non-factual or whatever it is they use nowadays. Sabi ni Dan, unsolicited advice ko talaga kay Leni, dapat gumamit siya ng Waze o GPS para hindi siya naliligaw sa hard questions. Which brings us to the topic of the Vice President. You're right. I agree with that. So, let's have a look at the topics na diniscuss niya. Sorry, wait. I can't see my laptop. There you go. There it is. So, the first topic she discussed was on the environment. Sabi niya, well, it mostly talked about mining, pero saan niyo po nabili t-shirt ko? Actually, niregalo po ito. So, unang-una, huwag niyong papansinin siyempre yung mga hanash ng mga commenters dun sa live feed. Lalong-lalo na kung dun sa ano, yung may mga pink hearts and all that. So some of them are, for hire, and some of them might also be, they really believe in this. It's okay. Huwag niyong pansinin. If it affects you, turn off the comment section. Kasi ito yan expected yan, di ba? Election ngayon. So, we will expect, of course, na meron siyang mga following, meron siyang polls for her and all that. So, hayaan nyo na. Of course, it's going to happen. But, ang tignan na lang natin dito is kung ano yung sinasabi niya. Okay, so, on the environment, hindi siya sang-ayon dun sa pag-lift ng ban on open pit mining. So, ang sinasabi niya is that hindi ano ba 'to? Masyadong ano daw sa environment and so on. So, ang mga proposals niya with regard to the mining industry ay kailangan daw i-increase yung consultations. Hindi daw pwedeng nag-meeting lang tapos yun na yun, pumayag na. I don't think it really works that way because before that, before the meeting, there's a need for getting the compliance and all that environmental compliance, and there are also processes for that, which includes another set of consultations with stakeholders. So I'm not sure what she means na kailangan pag-itingin pa yung consultations with the stakeholders at kailangan involved daw sila sa lahat ng proseso ng mining, which I find not really necessarily doable. Ay, next. She talked about COVID at dito medyo medyo slightly, wait, what? Kasi parang para sa nung nagsasalita siya, sinasabi niya na, kami, we did this. Oo, ang Office of the Vice President, umpisa pa lang, ganito ginawa namin, and so on. And, ang tanong ko, first of all, is, ano yung effect? Yes, you probably had programs like this, but how much of the population were you able to service and so on? Uh, yung mga, how do you call this? Uh, Medyo Pollyanna, yung parang, where do you live? What planet do you live? Do you honestly think these things work? I mean, parang, many of the solutions na pinipresenta niya dito are too, like, ito, yung sa mining, consultations on every level, really? How are you going to do that? You mean to say the mining company, when they extract the ore consultations, when they process the ore consultations, when they, whatever, assuming that they do process. But the process of extraction, the, yung pag-create ng mga ponds and so on, it's not, it's not practical. You have to decide at some point. Siguro ang gusto niya ay namo-monitor ng stakeholders yung mga ginagawa ng mga mina. Pero that's why you have agencies para mag-monitor ng mga yon. Ngayon, kung may problema tayo dun sa mga agencies, di kailangan yung mga agencies, yun ang babantayan nyo. Yun ang kakasuhan mo. If they're not doing the right thing, if they're not monitoring well, kung hindi sila nag-aayos ng kung meron talagang maliwanag na may violations yung isa, bakit hindi ninyo pinupulis and so on. So yun na nga, tapos dun sa COVID, puro we did everything and so on. I even took note na meron siyang sinasabi na they learned daw a lot of lessons. Sabi niya, kailangan talaga yung sense of urgency. Tapos she was talking again in that exasperating way of repeating herself. So, may mga lessons na learned, Tito Boy. Wow, Tito Boy talaga. Girl, I think magka-age kayo. Anyway, kailangan talaga yung sense of urgency. So, ano yung number one lesson? Kailangan talaga yung sense of urgency. Kailangan yung sense of urgency sa pag-respond. Kasi every minute, every second counts. Excuse me, kaya nga sense of urgency yan because every minute, every second counts. You're just repeating yourself. It's so infuriating to listen to you because you're clearly just trying to eat up the time by saying a lot of words but not really meaning anything. Ito, yung sa amin, Tito Boy, yung sa amin na nararamdaman sa pag-respond dito, hindi pwedeng gagalaw ka lang pag-perpekto na yung plano. Hindi eh. Kailangan andyan ka, gumalaw ka. Pag ako naging Pangulo, i-expand ko yan. I-expand niya what? This is what she said. Kailangan, hindi ka, yung gagalaw kayo, you don't have to wait until the plan is perfect. Kailangan gumalaw na kayo. Tapos, sinabi niya, pag ako naging Pangulo, i-expand ko yan. Ano daw? So, i-expand mo ang yung immediate response. O sige, immediate response with or without a plan or without a good plan. Ano na ba? So, she doesn't really do well in these things. Maganda yung mga memorized parts. But as always, it's infuriating to listen to her because there's so many superfluous words. And in fact, yun na nga, tama si Butch Cardenas when he says, how? How are you going to expand that? Ito, sabi niya, pero ako meron na kasi akong benefit of science. Meron na akong benefit ng lessons from other countries. Alam natin kung sino ng bansa ang nag-perform better. Wait! She said na in doing the projects, they learned a lot of lessons. And lesson number 1 is sense of urgency. I don't know how that's a lesson, pero sige. You don't wait daw for your plan to be perfect, gumalaw ka na. O sige, fine. What was lesson number 2? Wala. Sinabi niya, we learned lessons from the other countries. So wala siyang continuity. Nagmumukhang nagmumukhang ang dami niyang sinabi, but really there are no ideas and then medyo kalap yung mga ideas niya. I'm so going to get bashed by the pigs today. Pero that's what I'm seeing. There's no cohesion, there's no coherence. Plus, it's all Pollyanna, it's all up in the air. Kailangan yung mga stakeholders, alam nila lahat. There's complete transparency. And maganda yung word na transparency, but how are you going to do that? And at what point is that so-called transparency going to affect government operations? Remember, i-juxtapose natin. Hilig niya din sa transparency when she was referring to the mining issue. I-juxtapose, word of the day. Okay. Ipagtabi natin yan doon sa yung sinasabi ni BBM with regard to SALN. So, okay lang. Sige, we're all for transparency. Siya mismo magbibigay siya. He can make his SALN available or whatever. But it will really be up to the officials because sa totoo lang, there are people who go to the OMB before who would go to the OMB before and get lots and lots of SALNs just looking for dirt. And when they look for dirt, gagawa nila ng storya, aangguluhan nila sa media, so they would sell more papers or sell more whatever. But what does it do? Sometimes yung completely innocent na isang government official naaantala na nabubulabog dahil kailangan ng storya. Kailangan may anggulo. Dito, si Madam, gusto niya absolute transparency pagdating daw dun sa mga stakeholders, pero ang gusto niya, every step of the way. So, may consultation. At what point are you going to say, this is an inefficient means of conducting your operations? Next, meron siya on OFWs and migrations. Now, I agree na kailangan ng mga programa, especially for the families that get left behind. Tapos, but she talks about wanting OFWs to go abroad because they want to, but also recognizing na hindi pwede na it's not gonna happen anytime soon. So, ang pinag-uusapan niya ay yung, i-increase yung skills ng mga OFWs para halimbawa dun sa seamen, imbis na yung mababa yung ranko mo, dun ka sa mataas-taas na level para mas malaki yung kikitain nila. But, sige, yes, but is she sure that's doable? Is she sure that this has not been actually presented before? Sa tinatagal-tagal na natin na may mga OFWs dito, may mga OFWs tayo, did she honestly think that had not been proposed before? I have sat on investigation after investigation in Congress, in the Senate, and so on, tungkol dito sa increasing the skills, making sure that our OFWs are more highly skilled, more educated, more so and so. But those are not the demands of the the sector. Ganito yan eh, kadalasan nagiging OFW kasi, well, it's possible that they're training here for a particular profession, ay hindi naaangkop o masyadong mababa. So, kahit school teacher ang training, mag-OFW, magdo-domestic, and so on. Because dati, I don't think it applies anymore. Dati, mas mataas pa rin ang sahod ng domestic kesa dun sa naging training nila dito, which, in some cases, are school teachers and so on, educators and so on. So, ang sinasabi niya is, i-train natin for higher paying jobs. But what is the demand for the higher paying jobs? Do OFWs go abroad if they're already highly skilled? It applies to the seaman sector. Sure, why not? Pero does it apply to every sector? In fact, dati, may attempt na ang ating gobyerno na lagyan ng cap. And this was on the recommendation of the DFA. Nalagyan natin ng lagyan natin ng educational requirement para mag-approve tayo ng OFWs. Kasi pag mabababa yung educational attainment, in some cases hindi nakaka-graduate ng grade school or ng high school, then the higher the education, the more protected they are because they know what to do, it's easy for them to follow instructions and so on. Hindi sila madali may troll! I like her answer on everything. Okay, sige, fine. Anyway, it was not doable. It's been attempted and it was not doable. So, yun ang inaano ko is that, kaya nga sila yung iba dyan, kaya nga hindi makatrabaho dito, mag-OFW because they don't have the skills. And the need for, the need for work that pays well is immediate. So, kailangan i-bridge niya yung kanyang, up in the clouds solution with the reality on the ground. Ang hilig niya magsabi, bababa kami sa baba, pero yung nasa baba, di ba? Does she even know? I'm not sure. Alright, meron pa. Social media and pornography. This I really don't understand with her. Sabi niya kailangan may measure para maprotektahan yung mga minors about this. And then after that long talk about protecting the minors and so on, she says, hindi ba may mga apps? Ayun naman pala may solusyon naman pala May mga apps where you can keep your kids out of offline or and so on. Pero naman palang paraan to keep your kids from seeing certain sites. Yeah, there are apps about that. But after everything she says, she wants to impose this on government. Kailangan ang gobyerno ang gagawa. And then in the end, she says may apps yan. Wait! You mean government doesn't have to do it? There's an app for that? Okay. Yun. So, that's, well, yun na nga I don't think that she was prepared for that one. Parang medyo, sige. Right, I understand. Of course, we have a need to protect minors from getting into these porn sites. But she wants government to be the nanny. Kailangan may paraan kasi daw magaling ng tech ngayon. Hindi ba may apps niyan? Patay na. Oo nga, may tech nga. And there are apps for that. So why is government going to do it? Sabi ni Lengua, ang concern po niya talaga ay fake news. Yes, but Tito Boy's question was on pornography primarily. And as usual, we know her stand on fake news, di ba? On rape-related abortion, yun yung next. So dun sa rape-related abortion, she says that as a Catholic, it's always a no matter what. But naiintindihan niya yung needs for certain, naiintindihan niya yung sitwasyon ng mga incest and rape victims because she says that she had done work with them. And okay, yeah, I understand the dilemma. Nakikita ko din na it really is a dilemma for many Filipinos. But on that one, I cannot fault her on her logic. But in other words, hindi tunay yung pagka-progressive niya. Normally, yung mga Democrats and mga liberals and so on, sila yung mga progressive. Sila yung mga pro-divorce, pro-abortion, pro-ganyan. So it means na may limits talaga yung pagkaano niya. yung pagka pro-democrat niya. Sabi ni Ella Michamiki, masyado tayong demanding kay Lugaw, di niya kakayanin yung standard na meron si BBM. I'm not even comparing her yet. Sa tingin mo nakuhanan na sila lahat ng video bago ipinalabas yung vlog kay Senator Lacson? I don't know, but they certainly could have watched it when it was presented to the public. They certainly could have watched BBMs also. On drugs, doon pa lang dun sa sinabi niya, when she was, ano ba yung pangalan ng body na yan? Hindi siya sa dangerous drugs board eh. And then she was saying motherhood statements or things that we already know. Halimbawa, yung dangerous drugs board, policy making yan. No, ito yung mga no shit Sherlock statements. Of course we know that. Tell us something we don't. Oh yes, I'm so going to get bashed by the yellows tomorrow. Sorry, pinks. Pink na pala sila ngayon. So, and then she talks about her 18 days in in PIDEA or whatever it was that she was doing there. 18 days. Ang dami. Parang, I was bracing myself na parang sasabihin niya na, kahit 18 days lang ako, ang dami kong nagawa. Because that had been yun yung tema ng kanyang so far, 'di ba? Ng kanyang interview is that ang daming nagawa ng Office of the Vice President. Sure, ma'am, marami kayong magawa. Unang-una, clearly that has not made an impression on the general public because let's face it. 108 minutes after the video has been presented, only 239,772 views at the outset. Okay? People just aren't that interested in her as compared with others. I think Ping Lacson may have registered lower, but I'm not sure about that. On the Philippine debt, so in-underscore niya na lumaki yung utang ngayon, but she talks about, honoring the debts and so on. For me, it was a dig, of course, as usual, at Duterte for getting into debt. But she doesn't say why we got into debt, and she doesn't say that we are capable of paying off that debt. So as usual, it was an opportunity to politicize the situation. Okay lang, because it is political. So, all right, on the West Philippine Sea, hindi ko masyadong iniinda eh. Na-stuck ako dun sa isang niya. Well, she wants to honor the arbitral decision, which, of course, it's there. Ang impression ko dito is that she's not really said anything new. Not on anything, not on anything there. West Philippine Sea, sige, presidential qualifications, dyan pareho kami ng stand. Hindi natin pwedeng I completely sympathize dun sa position ni former Senator, the late Senator Miriam Defensor Santiago when she said na, pagka nasa civil service, even janitors, sometimes we ask them to be college graduates, tapos pag presidente ng Pilipinas, hindi wala kang i-require. So she only echoed parang proud pa siya na binasa niya yung minutes of the convention tungkol dito. And it's another no shit Sherlock answer. The reason for that is, as we've always said, is to open up the possibility for anybody to be able to become president. Dapat open yan. Of course, the reality on the ground is that it is not. You have to have money. You have to have even power to begin with. So, she never even dealt with those other issues. Sabagay, mahigpit lang naman kasi yung scope, maliit lang yung scope nito. Political fast talk. Okay. Sa political fast talk, well, dito nakita natin that she trash talked the other candidates as compared dun sa kay BBM who refused to do that to his fellow candidates. Bakit siya yung iboto? Kasi she has a plan. Basically, that's what she's saying. What's your favorite part, guys? That's okay. This not disclaimer. I want to underscore that these are my opinions, does not reflect the opinion of anybody else. ah, Sabi ni Ma'am Judy Litana, what is the reaction of people in the judiciary after Leni confirmed she will let the ICC? O nga pala, no? West Philippine Sea yun. Sorry, forgot. Let the ICC investigate here. Isn't it a bit of a slap on their faces that our judicial system isn't working? By the way, the judicial system, well, it's not just the judicial system, it should be the entire justice system. And remember that, sabi niya, she didn't even deal with that, which I think is slightly dishonest. Kasi ang sabi niya, kung walang itatago, bakit hindi papasukin? She doesn't deal with the issue of sovereignty. Kadalasan, yung ibang mga bansa, ang unang poprotektahan nila, sovereignty. Kasi parang you're handy, even if you don't like the president, and he's the one who's facing an ICC investigation, poprotektahan mo yung soberanya ng bansa mo. Yeah, doesn't that just make sense? You don't just hand over uh, the president who has been elected by so many, and you just hand them over to foreign powers. Why? Uh, Sabi ni Dance Chronicles, di ko natiis ang pagbubuhat bangko, women shown in crisis, only women with character with proven competence. Di siya kasama doon. Oo nga, kasi ang sagot nga pala niya, di ba, was that why should people vote for her? Because she's a woman and women shine during crisis. Which, obviously, clearly, the I don't want to be anti-woman. I'm not, because I am one. But it's not logical. You can't say that every single woman will shine during a crisis. In the same way, you can't say that every single man will not. So, uh, no, no, that did not make any kind of rational sense. I think that's a redundancy. It didn't make any sense. On the WPS on China, she's not into bilateral talks, but she's into multilateral talks. Isn't that the same concept? And coalition of nations, PH government will fund that when bilateral talks is more viable. Multilateral talks. I think that what she's thinking of is the coalitions, the coalition that the US is trying to build against China. And kumbaga, she has a very specific situation in mind. O bakit hindi tayo, gusto niya, magkampihan with other nations as against China. Sige, gusto ko sabihin, sige ma'am, ikaw kaya niyong i-organize yan. What country is going to join a bully group trying to bully China? It doesn't really. Kumbaga, what are we going to do? Join a bunch of nations? And why? Why are we going to do that? Do you think that if you enter into a multilateral talks, you have so many people, they will join our side, they will join us in asserting our rights in the South China Sea? Again, I'm not sure if these solutions or what she's thinking are well thought out. Kasi nga, ang lumalabas is that these probably look good on paper, but it doesn't, in the real world, mean anything. Sabi ni Ma'am Lalani Tan, having said that, oo nga parang ngayon lang niya na-discover yung having said that. But do you know what that term means? Yung having said that means you're introducing a concept that goes against the first concept that you're saying. Pero I think she's just using it to catch her breath and say, oh, having said that, and she segues into a next concept that doesn't necessarily mean that it's against the first one. So I'm not sure she's using it right. Sabi ni Malin Ortiz Millar, ano po ba talaga tamang pag-pronounce ng overarching? Well, I don't really like to diss people on pronunciations because we it's easy to make a mistake. But I think in this term it's overarching. I haven't checked, but my theory is that it's overarching because it refers to something that goes above and bridges uh, two different concepts or two different ideas or two different things. So, or more, two or more different things. So, overarching. Uh, that's that's the way I hear it more often. Overarching. She says overarching. It's a. I don't really want to diss her on that one. It's too But if you really want to get into it, I'll look at it later. Ah, Yun, sabi ni Owen Friday, linyahan ni Hillary Clinton yon. Yes, and it shows that she still aligns herself with the ideology of the US Democrats. Sabi ni Ga Domingo, I like that she likes micromanagement. Yes, I noticed that. Tapos sabi niya, in a crisis daw, kailangan micromanage. Which means that what she's saying is that during a crisis situation, focus lang siya on that one and hopes that everything else will take care of itself. Not sure kung kakayanin niya yon because ako, I'm not sure if kakayanin ko yan. Or there's some people who can do that, but I'm not sure that it's even a good idea to begin with. Rachela Manalastas says, can you enlighten us about the arbitral ruling po? Does it say po ba na atin yung WPS? No, it says that the 9-dash line that China is proposing uh, is doesn't exist. Okay? There's no basis for them to say that na kanila yung buong South China Sea because based on the theory of the 9-dash line. So, that's what it says. It doesn't say that it's ours. And in fact, in some areas, says that it's the traditional fishing ground of at least 3 nations. Uh, Ariel Passion Layugan says, ang lakas din ng loob niya sabihin na sila lagi ang nauuna kapag may sakuna. The nerve of Ate Girl talaga. Well, you can be first in a place such as, saan ba yung sinasabi na nandun siya pero wala siyang dalang ayuda? Which I'm not sure is true or not. Right? But that might be indicative. Ito, sabi ni Alexis Del Rosario, classic yellow mindset. She's not really bent on nation building but on propping herself in the warped ideology of LP. Nag-glimpse lang ako sa live niya at nung narinig ko yung, para sa akin lang, Tito Boy, at sa akin lang, Tito Boy, sa akin lang, nag-close na ako kasi parang puro laging sa akin lang. Ito, sabi ni Kuya Teng, I agree, Miss Trixie, yun din na po na ako, ICC. Ay, thank you kay Ma'am Felina Jane Beniga. Sabi niya, I'm a woman and using the gender card does not resonate with me, Ma'am VP. Was cringing in my seat when I heard this. Honestly, I just watched the interview for comic relief. Ako, I watched it for the possibility of a teaching moment or learning moment. Von Ryan Velasquez says, culpable violation of Constitution po ba yun pag inalaw ng presidente mag-imbestiga ang ICC? Sana mapansin itong tanong na ito. O, napansin ko na. Not necessarily. At least it's not very clear. Of course, in any state, sovereignty first. But the president is the architect of the diplomatic policy.
foreign policy. So, yun yung mangunguna. Ang impression ko, pag attorney or law student, mataas ang comprehension skills. Pero mukhang nagkamali ako. Itong si Leni mukhang di lang kaya mag-internalize. Pati comprehension bagsak. Lutang talaga. Yan ba ang naghahangad maging presidente? Mukhang kailangan pang i-coach at turuan pa. Hay nako. Sabi ni Don Paul, I respect Ma'am Leni but she can't lead. There you go. Well, for me kasi, I disagree with what she's saying. I also do not like the manner with which she talks, but that's just me, and that's my problem. But it's infuriating for me to not infuriating or exasperating. Sorry, infuriating's too heavy. So when she keeps repeating herself. Yeah, she keeps repeating fragments of the previous sentence and incorporates it in the next sentence, and she wastes so much time. And sometimes I think na parang she's talking down to us. Parang masyadong, ma'am, napaka-basic naman ng sinasabi mo. Tell us something we don't know. Yan. Inspire us. That, yeah, it's more like I don't know. Maybe it's just her. Maybe it's just really her. She's not inspiring. She doesn't exhibit leadership qualities. And sometimes, even if we can't explain it, we just don't like her. I'm not sure if it's because of what she stands for. Uh, ito. Matthews says, do you think her answers are agile? Sorry, agile. Sorry. Do you think her answers are agile enough? Agile. It's her mind that's not agile. I'm not saying this to be mean to her, okay? Let's just get that out of the way. I'm not saying this to be mean to her. But the way she communicates all of these things, yung pag nakikipag-usap siya, and yung usapan na yon, na may pagkakataon siyang i-address yung taong bayan, may pagkakataon siyang sabihin na, ito yung nakikita ko. Mga kababayan, ito yung nakikita ko. Ito yung problema, ito yung gusto kong mangyari. And this is how I'm going to bridge that. And and if we see that it is doable, and if we see that, yeah, sure, fine, you can take us there, that she can lead us there, then I don't see any reason why, we wouldn't all stand up and applaud. But she just doesn't bring us to that point. Hindi niya kaya. And a lot of people, well, they don't trust her. Look at how low the ratings are of this show. And in fact, half of the people, I suppose, who are watching this are watching it to see her fail. And you know what? Even if she doesn't, I'm not saying that she didn't. Even if she doesn't, I was looking for something more inspiring. No, iniisip ko, naghanda. Baka today, she will live up to the expectations of the people who are backing her up. Baka today, she could, talk to Kuya Boy or Tito Boy or Sir Boy and say, something, anything that will make us think na, oops, mukhang umu-okay si Leni Never even got to that point. In fact, in parts where I think, I agreed with her in certain parts, and in those parts, I still didn't, you know, she still didn't convert me. Hindi pa rin niya ako na umabot dun, hindi pa niya ako napaabot dun sa point na masasabi ko na, okay, sige, pwede. Ganun. Not that I would actually vote for her, that's not gonna happen. But I would say na, well, okay, if you want to vote for her. Parang ganon. Like, in our household, a lot of us are BBM, but not everybody, but nobody is Leni. So, Marvel Lagot says, it's not the manner, it's not the manner in which she talks. It is what has been built to our maturity and experience that their party's ideology and yellow influence still stinks even if she wears the pink collar. Ito, Ron Uy Passion says, Lenny is so full of herself. It's painful to call someone dumb, but it's the exact description. Well, the being full of herself and being dumb are two different things, but you're right, she might be both. That's mean. But um, I guess it turned people off na ano na yung nagyayabang siya, parang ganon. Because dito, marami dito nandito sa live natin ngayon, hindi yung pinupuso ang kandidato hindi ganun, hindi nagyayabang, hindi nagbubuhat ng sariling bangko. In fact, if when BBM talks, he usually refers to his father, he usually refers to ano. And ito yung tanong. Kung ang sinasabi nila is si BBM walang nagawa, si Leni may nagawa, yung sinasabi ni Leni kanina, despite her claims na marami siyang nagawa, and ako, let's just take it at face value. Let's say na marami nga siyang nagawa. Why isn't it converting any of us? Why doesn't it inspire us? Why can't we say that, uy, marami nagawa si Leni, sige, boto natin siya. Why doesn't it ever get to that point? I guess, yung karamihan na nakikita kong comments dito, tama kayo eh. Kung ang hinahanap natin leadership, wala siya nun. I just observed that when she speaks, she sees herself as above everyone else, as if she's the only one knowledgeable about things. Oh, but that's a Liberal Party trait. Or that's a trait of the people she associates with. Maybe not the Liberal Party lang. I remember that a presidential candidate noong 2016, ang description sa kanya is, ang nakakainis sa kanya is that he always thinks he's the smartest person in the room, even on matters that he knows absolutely nothing about. So, I guess if you associate with that sort of people, then mahahawa ka din dun sa ganong outlook at saka sa ganong pag-iisip. Ay, mali yung napindot ko. Sabi ni Cheryl, natawa ko dun sa nilinaw ni Tito Boy naman. Ni Tito Boy, yung tanong niya sa kanya, you know, my question started with, actually, how much do you know? Gaano mo kailangang kakilalang isang drug dependent? Would you give an idea? Gaano mo kakilala ang isang drug dependent? Would you give an idea? Yeah. At some point, Tito Boy was interrupting her because yung sinasabi nga niya was eating time. And it's ganito yan in debates, which I used to do a lot of in college, a little bit in college and then a lot in law school. In debates, there are certain strategies to get through a difficult question. Because it's time period, uubusin mo lang yung oras without actually saying anything. Or you'll say one small thing, and then that's the only thing na mai-interpolate sa'yo. Diba matatanong sa'yo. So in her case, yung paulit-ulit niya ng clauses in previous sentences, tapos yung inuulit niya yung tanong, these are eating up the time. So that if you look at it, she says very little talaga. Konti lang yung nasasabi niya dun sa oras na nabigay sa kanya. Ito sabi niya, tanong sa kanya kung paano babayaran yung utang ng bansa. Dami niyang kuda pero walang sagot na sakto sa tanong. Ilang beses ko tuloy na ibulalas eh. Paano nga? Oh, that was you! Gigil ako nun. Ikaw pala yan. Kasi I was also having a look at the comment section eh. Meron talaga na paano nga? Yung view counts ng interview niya directly reflects na konti na lang talaga ang tao na sharing with her ideals and her candidacy niya. Oh, but that'll grow later on. And hindi ako nagdududa na they will try to game the numbers on this one. Pero mahirap talaga i-game yan. at some point, 'di ba? Mahirap habulin yung 5 milyon. Sabi ni NW Rasi, I cannot put my life or the lives of my loved ones in her hands. A leader is someone we turn to when it's the darkest. Parang tayo lang yung mga mag-aalaga sa kanya at magsisave sa kanya. Sa akin lang. I saw what you did there. Get Real says, I think Leni suffers from the Dunning-Kruger effect. Yung, yeah, you gloss over the reality of the thing. I'm not sure. But, yeah, I'm not sure. But there certainly is something wrong. Miko Nichiwa TV says she keeps repeating a single word, making us uh, think if she's constructing a new sentence, but it's not. It seems like listening to loop music. What a pain in the butt. God bless the Philippines. Ito si Michelle Ocbina. You're so mean. Bigyan ng jacket yan. Clev Tan, thank you. Sabi niya, bakit ang sabi ni Pink Nanay arbitral court of tribunal? Nakakaloka yung patron saint of nerves. I actually noticed that also. Pero para sa akin kasi na ano lang siya. As usual, she tripped over her own words. But, in general, hindi siya masyadong nagtitrip this time. Pero yun, that exasperating, repetitive, nature of her speech. You're right. Alam niyo ba? Yeah, there's a study done. Kailan ba to? I think in the 90s, the late 90s, about the effect of certain repetitive tones. Like, they were studying the effect of some of the house music at the time na yung merong riff. It keeps repeating lang and it repeats incessantly. Na this, I'm not kidding about this. This I remember this because I was in university at the time that they were no 90s. I was already in law school at the time they did the study. But the point is, the repetition of those certain sounds, they actually have effect of dumbing people down. It makes you stupid. And yung parang akala mo, it seems hypnotic, yung paulit-ulit-ulit. But some of us, our mind will rebel. Pag yung paulit-ulit yung certain sounds, paulit-ulit yung words and so on. If music is on a loop and it's only for short bursts of music, and that's put on loop, nakakabobo yan. So, now I'm worried if she becomes president. Having said that, sabi ni Going Ad Geek by Ian, political fast talk. Negative campaigning to others and to herself as well. Sinira na rin niya sarili niya. Ito, Get Real says, Leni talks like a character from Mean Girls. She talks vaguely and in platitudes. If you can't understand her, she has the nerve to make you out as the dumb one. Shikes. Could you tell me how? This is very interesting. This is very interesting for me. She has the nerve to make you look like you're dumb. Okay. Sabi ni Maria Teresa Arias, ngayon ko lang po nalaman na ang habitual user is not an addict. You know, that actually sounds like an excuse an addict would make. No, I'm not, I can stop anytime. I'm not a habitual user. I'm just a habitual user. I'm not an addict. I'm not addicted to this. But I just, use, in my spare time, I can stop anytime. Typical addict language. But I'm not saying that that she's, well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Sabi ni Jun Blando, the only way to make sure that your post is not fake news is to share the posts of Luminous. Just like what I'm doing, safe na safe. So, friends, share na. Yes, because I'm already making an effort, like even pag nagsasalita tayo dito, when we present something, we'll always say that, sige, we'll have to double check this. So, ingat-ingat lang, hindi pa ako sure dito, and so on. Or, I don't like to make answers that are solid unless I'm sure that I can cite to you the source. Yeah, this be careful with this pallialia syndrome that associating it with her because in at least one instance na nakita ko, meron silang pina-take down sa Facebook a post that says that she has that. So, ingat-ingat po. Hindi necessary. Kasi sakit na yan eh. Nandun na sa point na may sakit yan. So, I'm not sure that we can actually attribute it to her, pero we could say it's as though she has that. May paulit-ulit din si BBM ng mga words, pero on point naman at precise at makukuha mo talaga ang solution, the background of issues and some hindrances, at may alternative solutions pa as in plural. Yes. No, alam mo, minsan, ayan, napapagalitan ako ng ibang mga viewers dito sometimes na Englishera ko too much na ano. Pero pag napansin niyo, there's certain words that he says na 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 for me are ordinary things. Na in the course of ordinary conversations, I have people who are like-minded. Ganon magsalita. You know, inveigle, finagle, all of these, we use those words in our conversations. Hindi namin ginagamit dun sa mga sitwasyon na maraming hindi makakaintindi ng salita na yun. Pero I like it. Kumbaga, it's the language of academe sometimes that shows up. Well, kasi ganun talaga pag nag-masters ka, when you take the higher studies, yung seryoso ha na tinitake mo, hindi yung honorary degree mo. You tend to talk a certain way. In fact, you will tend to write a certain way. Sabi ni Neil, does palilalia mean autism? Palilalia is the delayed repetition of words and phrases and is emitted by individuals with autism and other developmental disabilities. Yes, that's why you should not attribute it to her. Ah, sabi ni Jerlyn, just so you know, hindi ako makatulog unless mapanood yung live mo. Si Mom talaga. May replay naman, pwede naman. Ito. Sabi ni Ganda King, ano ang alternative lawyer? Well, there is what we call alternative law or alternative lawyering. It really is a term. There is really such a thing. It means you take up certain, di ba may mga fields of law. There's, how do you call this? Criminal law, civil law, corporate law, tax law, and so on. Yung alternative law are when you represent people in particular causes that are not normally taken up in the general practice of law. Halimbawa, no, I'm not a specialized area, but in general, no, not in the generalized practice. Pero kukunti nagko-practice na, like lawyering for and taking up the causes of the poor. The poor are denied certain benefits and so on. You take up that cause. You will represent people so that matuunan ng pansin yung kakulangan nila ng karapatan doon o yung fact na hindi na bibigyan pansin yung cause nila. Right? Yung cause ng mga sakadas, halimbawa. Ayan, yung mga ganyan. So, public interest law is sometimes referred to as alternative lawyering. It's really an NGO term. Ang ganda ng name ko pag na-shoutout ni attorney, sabi ni Ma'am Lisa Labagala Dolinog. Kayo ha. Style! Sabi ni Viterbo Guevara, the topics discussed were the same as with BBM, kaya in a way, may advanced information na ang mga other candidates up for the one-on-one with Boy Abunda. But wasn't Ping Lacson the first? Yeah. So, nag-benefit din si BBM in that one. So, well, those are the rules of the game. You're right, meron advantages the ones who come later, pero meron mga konting variation si Tito Boy. And really, it's yung if you can speak with coherence and meron kang new ideas, okay, then you'll shine. Kasi ang disadvantage naman ng mga those who come after is, pag yung nasagot na, nauubusan ka eh. Yung mga, ay, nasagot na ni BBM yan. Ay, nasagot na ni Senator Ping. Ay, nasagot na nung ilan yan. Okay? Ah, okay. So, let me see. Ah, okay. Block the troll. Somebody was saying na ang perfect ko naman daw. I'm not even talking about myself here. And may pinag-usapan ba tayo dito na when I was a lawyer, ganito, ganito. When I was lawyering for so-and-so, ganito, ganito. I'm still a lawyer. Ewan ko ba? Napanood ko yung... Oh, by the way, people who make arguments like that na, ano, grabe ka naman magsalita, bakit ikaw ba perfect? No, nobody's saying that. But I don't have to be perfect in order to criticize a person who presents herself to become the next president of this country. I have every right to talk about her. I have every right to point out the flaws. I have every right to make criticism about this person. So, wag ako ha. Anyway, Sir Bobby Rubio says, napanood ko yung replay ng interview ni Boy Abunda. Ang ganda ng mga sagot ni BBM kaso 5 minutes lang ang allotted sa answer, so bitin. Yeah. But, you know, with Madam Leni, like I said, she's eating up most of the time with repetitions. Nang sagutin ni Aling Leni kung bakit di niya iboboto, sabi ni Sir Aris, si BBM, lumabas ang pagka-bitter niya kasi sabihin ba naman na sinungaling si BBM at sa panahong mahirap ay nawawala siya. Talaga naman, it really turns people off on what she said. Well, parang ang sinasabi niya sa mga panahon na pangangailangan or something like that. Ano yung exact term niya? Sa ano, or pag mahirap, you know, in times of difficulty, parang ganon, nawawala siya. Excuse me, excuse me, dalawa lang ang instances na binibring up ng mga ito tungkol dun sa hindi pag-appear ni BBM. Number one was pre-trial conference dun sa COMELEC. Oh, how is that an issue? How is that? It's a pre-trial conference. He wasn't going to testify. Nobody was going to testify. Nobody was going to stand up there and point fingers at him. It's pre-trial conference. The purpose of pre-trial conference is simply to determine the facts, to make to agree on what are the facts that no longer need to be proven, the issues, and to mark evidence. The reason for wanting to BBM to be there, or in the alternative to present a special power of attorney, is to make sure na yung lawyer niya ay kinatawan niya talaga at empowered para mag-enter into stipulations of fact. Number one. Number two, anong claim nila? Ano yung second no-show? Parang pinapalabas yata ni Madam na ang daming beses na no-show si BBM. She didn't even bother to enumerate. She just says na sa panahon ng pangangailangan, hindi dumadating. Ang problema nga is that si Madam, sanay na sanay siya na nasisinagan ng limelight, nasisinagan ng traditional media, yung lahat ng kanyang mga activities. So, good or bad, na alam ng mga tao what she's doing. Pero si BBM has been out of government and was fighting an electoral case. But he continued helping, namimigay din siya. Ano akala ni VP Leni? Sila lang ang may programa din sina BBM. Siya lang ba namigay ng face mask? Namigay din sina BBM. Siya lang ba ang tumulong dun sa mga may sakit? Tumulong din sila. So, kumbaga, you're right in the sense na medyo, that's really weird. Okay, wait. Nawala ko yung page ko. Shoot, holy cow. Fortunately, I have the alternative over here. There you go. Oh, shoot. Sick. What the heck? There's something wrong. Yun. Sorry. Nawala ba ako? Sorry. Ayan. sabi ni H. John, pasensya na po sa mga nasaktan. Okay. Palilalia, diba? Is a symptom. It does not mean that you have a mental disorder. Most of the times, it needs multiple symptoms. Diagnosis should be done by a psychiatrist. Hindi naman po tayo psychiatrist, so wag po natin agad i-attribute sa tao. Let's be fair. Tama si Kenneth. Also, mafi-fake news kayo. So, even if you want to be mean, let's not be that mean and insinuate that she has some kind of mental illness. When it's actually far more simpler. The people, sabi ni Geisha, people are using against BBM the fact that he was one of the signatories of the Philippines ratification of the Rome Statute of the ICC and his answer regarding the ICC in the Boy Abunda interview. Any thoughts on this, please? All right, that's interesting. The Philippines is a signatory. Do you know the history? ERAP signed the Rome Statute. And then nakita ni Gloria and then she took away the signing. Kumbaga, inano niya, binawi yung signature and then si BS Aquino put it back in. Which means that even for us, hindi natin talaga napag-aralan what were we waiving when we entered into the Rome Statute. Ngayon, it's one of those idealist conventions na on paper, it looks really good, but in practice, it's been terrible. Kasi tignan ninyo, di ba nakasuha ng US? Anong ginawa ng US? Hindi rin pinayagan pumasok. Of course, this was the time of Trump. But did you notice if Biden allowed the ICC to come in? Or are they just going to let Trump hang out to dry? I don't know. But the point is that that what she's doing here is that she's just ceding sovereignty. So, kung niratify, kung isa siya dun sa mga senador na pumirma ng ratification ng Rome Statute, we can change our minds. This is not, if it's not working for us, we can withdraw. As a matter of fact, that is one of the provisions of the Rome Statute itself. There's a provision there which we have made use of to withdraw from the Rome Statute. So what are they saying now? That he can't change his mind just because he signed the Senate ratification of that. One of the senators who helped ratify our entry into the Rome Statute, into the ICC, doesn't mean that we don't get to change our minds. It's in the Rome Statute itself that we can. Sorry, I don't mean to be yelling. I'm not yelling at you. And I'm not yelling. Sorry. Well, dandan lang ako kasi makikita mo talaga na the struggle is real kasi may dalang tubig si Boy Abunda ngayon sa interview ni Leni. Unlike kahapon kay BBM, walang dalang tubig. Grabe kayo. The good liberal shepherd made use of the concept of if you can't convince them, confuse them. Hehe. You know, I like how intelligent you guys are. She looks awkward every time she sees Tito Boy writing something. Sabi ni Marie Feli, excuse me Leni, sino ang tumutulong hands-on sa Yolanda o sa Odette to name a few? So BBM was there when needed. And Duterte. In fact, Duterte was one of the first. About po dun sa decision sa WPS, nabanggit ni Sas na yung decision hindi naman sinasabi ang pag-aari ng Pilipinas. Tapos etong si Leni, sasabihin niya, yun ang buod ng buong decision. Pwede po ba pa-post ng copy ng decision, ma-discuss po ulit dito. Actually, nag-google yan. Naka-post yan in the website ng tribunal. Hanapin ko, i-repost ko yan. Ito sabi ni Ma'am Daisy, I'll finish your live bago ako manood ng interview kay Fake VP. Priority kita. Sorry naman, Ma'am. Naantala ko pa yung pagpapanood ninyo. Sabi ni Ma'am Jennifer de Guzman, the interview of VP Leni is an eye-opener sa ibang Pinklawans reading the comments doon sa Boy Adunda interview. Yung iba, nagdadalawang isip na sila kung iboboto pa nila. Like I said, my main, it's not an issue. I'm just not impressed. I'm just not inspired or moved by her. That's just me. Not saying that everybody's not inspired by her. Mamaya hihirit na naman yung mga trolls na, eh ano, ikaw lang naman yun, perfect ka ba? Wow, amazing logic, that one. Uh, it's just not working for me. I don't see her as the leader of our country. I don't even see her as the leader of a barangay. But there you go. Ito sabi ni Ma'am Karen Lulu, she's a lawyer, she should know better about that arbitration eke. Although to be fair, okay, and kudos to SAS, all right, it's very difficult even for lawyers to grasp the concept of international law or even international relations. Kudos to SAS because she can make international relations seem so easy, but it's really very, how do you call this, complex, because you have sovereign countries. You don't have a body. You don't have police. You don't have a law that everybody will abide by. You have very basic rules on diplomacy. And even if you bind yourselves to a treaty or to a convention, um, enforcing it is usually voluntary. So once you get all of that into your head, it'll be easier to understand why many people don't even bother to resort to that. The solutions almost always for countries lie within their borders, except in cases of humanitarian uh, action, no, like rescues, uh, the Red Cross, help feeding the hungry, and so on. And of course, terrorism, which is cross-border. It's crimes against humanity. These ones are easy because what we do is we help out each country in enforcing it, even if we enforce it only in our own borders, within our own borders. Hi, attorney, when she mentioned and uh, praised Maria Ressa, I stopped watching. This clearly shows how she will become a blind supporter for liberal allies and their personal agenda. And the ICC, how can you have a president that backseats sovereignty just to push her grudge with the president? You know what? I so love the way some of you guys write. Thank you, Sir D. This, it's just, parang, I'm so glad to see you discourse this way. Of course, we're still bashing Lenny, but sorry. I mean, sometimes I'm not the grown up, okay? But I do like that we're discussing this on policy levels, on issue levels, and so on. Even if we're saying that we don't like this candidate, meron basis talaga. Uh, Sabi ni Ellen Kideng, about the coalition po with other Asian countries about WPS issue, parang she wants us to go to war against China. Can't she see how vulnerable our position is? Well, not really war, but she phrases it as diplomatic, multilateral talks. But really, what she's looking for is kakampi sa ibang bansa. And I'm not sure. Kumbaga, every problem should be tailored to the solution should be tailored for that particular problem. And I don't think getting several countries to work against China is even doable. Every country has their own specific relationship with China. Now, the US is at odds with China, but when they team up with another country, that other country has to still think also of their own relationship with China. So it's not that, yeah. Kumbaga, well, good luck with that. Let's see if in 100 years she succeeded. Sabi ni Napoleon, may comment on the Boy Abunda Leni Robredo presidential interview. My compliments, ang galing sumagot ni Boy Abunda. You guys are so mean. I swear. I'm looking for the Ma'am Marjorie Season says, nag-review naman si Leni, kaya lang hindi ko talaga matake ang mga sagot niya the way she talks. Ako pa ang nahihiya para sa kanya. Boy A asked her ano yung difference between ayuda and dole out, and she admits that they're the same thing. You're right. Nagtataka nga po ako dun sa sinabi ni Madam na hindi daw nagpapakita si BBM sa time na kailangan. Eh ang tanong, may alam ba siya? Inaalam niya ba? O makarating man sa kanya na tumutulong ito, magsasayang ba siya ng oras banggitin sa harap ng camera? Natural, hindi. Kawalan sa kanya yon. I'm trying to figure out what she meant by, yun na nga, tama kayo, what she meant by saying that BBM doesn't show up when he's needed. Uh, Sabi ni Lou Arojo, she did a good job in converting the swing votes to choose someone else. Yeah, not her. Sabi ni Judy, Pinklawans are saying Leni is very much commendable, answering the questions on point. Oh, really? I wonder who set the bar this low for them. What a shame. Oh my gosh, you guys, I swear. I'm not sure. I'm starting to talk like you. I told Sir Boy Abunda, says Happy Holiday, that don't worry, Pacquiao will do better than Nanay Leni. Good evening, Attorney. Well, I admit it really is, she's easy picking. So, I remember when she was talking about yung low-hanging fruit. And the first thing I thought was, Mom, kayo yung low-hanging fruit. Ang dali niyong, ang dali niyong tirahin. Anyway, Kemi Du says she's a lawyer herself and yet she's willing to sacrifice our sovereignty without even thinking. Parang sinasabi niya na rin na di gumagana ang judiciary natin. Yeah. Yung 10th question ni Boy Abunda, sabi ni Chet Deo Careza, on presidential requirements, naubos na yata pasensya niya kasi yung follow-up question, iba na yung datingan. Ay, well, yeah. I don't think, well, kasi sa totoo lang, tama yung basehan niya. Well, for me kasi, yun nga naman yung, yung reason kung bakit yung sa Constitutional Convention, nilagay nila, hindi nila masyadong hinigpitan yung requirements na magiging presidente. I'm not sure if she took a stand on that kasi parang hindi naman hard din yung stand niya on that one. Sabi ni G. Singson, I think Leni meant BBM is not there when needed, like in times of disaster, because she said she's always the first to be in disaster sites. What a terrible thing to say, because the only difference between, well, I think BBM had also responded. He was at Yolanda. I mean, after. He did distribute, after all, that was slated. It's his mother's province. So, nagbigay rin siya nung sa Odette. Ang unit team nagbigay dun sa Odette. He gave in Taal. I don't know why she's saying that. I think it might be that she's unaware of his own activity. So, kayang-kaya niyang sabihin yon out of ignorance. Sabi ni the engineers, ang harsh ni attorney, kilala ko yung may honoris causa. Yeah, kasi nga, pag natatawa kasi ako dun sa Then, later on, itong yung nagsabi na, wow, ang perfect ko naman daw for me to criticize VP Leni. I didn't say I was. In fact, I'm far from it. And in fact, that's why we're vying for sainthood here. Because, di ba, after a lifetime of debauchery, some people can still become saints. Heidi Albano said, did you notice when she talked about necessity versus essential on OFWs? No, I have to go back on that one. That may have gone by me. But kasi I must have been typing something. Balikan ko po. But Ma'am Heidi, why don't you comment here what exactly she said? Sabi ni Lizelle Berame, parang nga siya nag-aabang na ng sagot. Very confident pa ko na pero nagcha-cha-cha mga pangungusap. Ito na yata literal na joke namin sa Bisaya na iaitsura namin if usap-usapong ko ani. So sabi ni Fer Yarag, so sinungaling din siya na siya ang nauuna, always silang nauuna. That's ano yan eh, that's yabang na lang on her part, which may not necessarily be backed up. Ito, her only me disposition is that one that drags her down the most. She discredits everyone around her. Imagine having such a self-centered president who cannot acknowledge that she's also lacking. Oh boy. You guys can talk so nicely, but you're really very mean. Sabi ni Deng Bautista, why would she expect BBM on the ground? Eh, di naman naka-full coverage yung ginagawa ni BBM. Besides, he's not part of government yet. That's true. Soft ang stand ni Madam about porn kasi maapektuhan ng bisyo ng supporter niya na si Jim Paredes. Sabi ni Ma'am Marilu, sabi niya lagi daw wala si BBM. Bakit? Stalker ba siya ni BBM? O, isa pa yan. I'm not sure nga what she meant eh, kasi it was such a generic insult na hindi ko sure kung what incident she was referring to. But if it was the COMELEC thing, BBM wasn't even required. Si Com Ding Wanson na lang ang naghanap talaga. Sabi ni Ma'am Catherine David, sabi po ni Ma'am Leni, puro ako. Kaya hirap na hirap po si Sir Abunda. Paano sisingit para matwail yung sagot sa tamang tumbok? Hirap na hirap pa din si Ma'am Leni, kaya pag di si Sir Boy na agad mag-explain, oh my God. Senator Ping already responded in his Twitter account, Boy Abunda interview, VP Leni on Senator Ping. Maraming salita pero kulang sa on the ground na gawa. Translation, hindi ako kulang sa on the ground. Hindi lang talaga ako ma-epal tuwing magbibigay ng tulong sa mga kalamidad man o sa mga individual na tulong. Copied directly from his account. Thank you, Miss Irish, for my entertainment today. I can't wait for the reactions of the other candidates as well. Pero si BBM, hindi yan magre-react ng ganyan. He'll just say, ganun siya nag-iisip. Sige lang. Hindi kasi productive. But I love Senator Ping's response. Got it. Hindi daw siya umiepal. I'm not sure if this doesn't convince me to vote for him, but I like his response. Sabi ni Ma'am Gretchen, dapat panghuling episode yung kay BBM para hindi masyadong halatang nakakaloka yung mga sagot ni ina nila. BBM makes the standard too high na kahit pa mag-helicopter siya di abot. Sir Ari says, 3 hours nang nakalipas at naka 1.1 million views na si Leni compared kay BBM na nasa 6 million views na. Mukhang yung mga Arabo, Pakistani at foreign pink todo nood na ang trabaho sa YouTube. Ha, yung matulog lang tayo bukas. Si Leni na ang trending! Ito, sabi ni Sir Arnel, mahihirapan si Madam makarecover from this one. Leo Greg Imperial says, when Leni, she claimed being the first to arrive at every emergency, she flinched when she first mentioned Marawi. Parang gusto niyang bawiin. Di ko. Kasi remember, nung pumunta siya doon, unang-una, nauna siya kay Presidente, di ba? Pero ang laki ng difference. When she was there, you know, of course, may mga tao siyang nakita and all that, kaway-kaway and all that. But when PRRD was there, grabe, rockstar status talaga, dumog, the military surrounded him, our soldiers and our officers out in the field, wow, they just, like, nothing I've ever seen before. Rockstar talaga. I mean, the only time I've seen things like that is sa mga artista. Tom Perez says, there's no assurance that other countries will side with us without strings attached. They have their own country and their welfare to think about it. Can we stand our ground and face our problems head-on with diplomacy? Yeah. In fact, well, kasi ang tinutunggali niya, yung stand ni PRRD, who prefers, well, PRRD has two in operation already. He put in the code of conduct dun sa ASEAN, and to include the code of conduct talks to include China in the talks on the code of conduct, and if it should get passed, then with China being a signatory. Although China has made it clear that they prefer to do bilateral talks. Pero with PRRD naman, he also conducts bilateral talks, just China and the Philippines, and he also talks with the US, same, just the US and the Philippines. Yung mga coalition na ganyan, hindi pa, wala pa rin mga multilateral when it comes to the West Philippine Sea. It's not a bad idea, but I really don't see it as something that can be, kumbaga, easier said than done. Sabi ni Luan, I don't understand why the Pinklawans did not appreciate when Tito Boy cut her off when he's just helping her go straight to the point due to the limited time. Well, you'd never interrupt your enemy when they're making a mistake, and you interrupt a friend when they are. I don't think they've taken that into consideration. Ano ba yung question number 10 uli? Sabi ni D, muntik nang uminit ang ulo ni Kuya Boy. Sa question number 10, di matumbok ni VP Leni yung sagot. Yung qualifications ng president. Yeah. Related po ba yung mechanism ni Mama Leni sa makina sa Dolomite ni Nino? You guys are so mean, I swear. I swear talaga. Jay Handa says, I don't understand bakit ginagawang issue na yung presence pag relief operations. It is a plus sa moral ng mga tao na nasalanta yung presence ng leader. But if sufficient naman yung relief efforts, di ba okay naman yan? Tama. I mean, I couldn't have said it better. Eto, sabi ni Shasha, puring-puri po sa kanyang nasa kabilang parlor. Brilliant daw and on point lahat ng sagot. Oh my God, the nerve, I can't. Hayaan yun na. Yan. Kasi you don't mind them because definitely they're emotionally invested in Leni. So I really don't see them acting any other way. Yan yun na. Sabi ni June Anderson, hindi po ba kayo naiinsulto sa katulad ni Madam na abogado? That's because kayo kasi, you presume that lawyers are intelligent. Meron din kasing tsamba. Ganito, the qualifications, minimum amount of knowledge that you should know in order to practice the profession. Now, sometimes the questions there just happen to be the very topics that you studied. And so you place in the bar, you pass in the bar. But is that a measure of your abilities to become a good lawyer? And so on. Not necessarily. There's some bar top-notchers who can't even, who don't practice because they don't like the adversarial stance of being litigation lawyers and so on. I don't, kumbaga, she hasn't been in practice kasi for years. And talagang mapupurol ka pagka ganon. Today, VP Leni, so much rubbish that it solidified his cosplays as number 2. I believe that. I believe that's entirely possible. Good nerve lang niya ang madaling mahanap, pero yung sagot niya di talaga mahanap-hanap. Ito. Sabi ni Ma'am Karen, di daw Filipinong indigenous peoples, di daw sapat na mabuti lang ang puso, ay di ba si Pacquiao presidente niya kung di siya tumakbo? Problema ko kay Madam passive-aggressive, kayo na lang daw mga nanonood ang mag-adjust at mag-process. Damay pati si Boy Abunda. Today, diniklara niya na ako lang ang magaling day. It is not just your problem, attorney, on the way she could, ha? It is everybody's. Puro ako sa fake news, di naman niya specifically masabi kung ano at saan. Si Ma'am Karen, grabe, you're on fire. Okay, last two, kasi may karambola tayo bukas. Kiko Castro was saying, she was nailing her coffin slowly during the interview. because she talks so slowly. When we asked about fast talk, lalo na about BBM, she dug her own grave already at siya na nagbaon sa sarili niya, nang baon sa sarili niya. Ay. Kay asks, saan po ba graduate ng law si Madam? Sa University of Nueva Cáceres. And last, Mike Kraft Ambi says the interview somehow was also biased for Leni, although it was live, but all of the questions of Abunda were the same, heard and known by Leni during Ping BBM interview. Same advantage for Isko and Pacquiao. Yes, but it also holds everybody to, kumbaga, mas madali i-weigh yung answers against each other kasi para-pareho yung tanong. So in that sense, it's like a debate kasi pare-pareho yung tanong, kikilatisin natin yung galing ng sagot. Sabi ni Chev, di daw Pilipino mga indigenous peoples? Wow, ano kaya pakiramdam ng mga tausug na binisita niya nung isang araw? Did she really say that? Saan niya sinabi yun? Sa mining. I have to go back on that. Let me check. And Evangelina Slava says about the multilateral issue by Madame Leni Robredo, how can she persuade those coalition countries to join her against China knowing her mental capacity? I don't know. Maybe she'll send somebody else. Alright, guys, may karambola tayo bukas. Don't forget, like, share, follow, and subscribe dito sa video and sa Facebook page and sa YouTube channel. Please share also the page and the channel so that others can follow and subscribe. Remember, guys, please take care of your accounts. Please take care that we don't post what are considered fake news. I disagree with this entire concept of fake news. Ganyan pa man, we have to live with it because it's there right now. So, ingat-ingat lang po muna tayo sa pagpo-post. Please, be very mindful kasi nga, they're going to try, there's news that, well, not news, there's talk that Facebook might be taking down accounts the way Twitter took down accounts. Okay. Subscribe, you guys. Thank you very, very, very much again. And I hope you have a good night. To see you on Karambola tomorrow. Don't forget to see us there because it's going to be so much fun. I hope Attorney Larry might be there, and oh my gosh, ay maraming pag-uusapan, including yung pagbibigay ng mga frequencies, pag-a-assign ng mga frequencies sa ibang mga companies, not ABS-CBN. So that's, if we're talking about nailing the coffin shut somewhere, ito na yon. Gandang gabi, everybody. Please be safe. Practice social distancing. Stay at home when you can. Wash your hands, face mask. We want to keep you safe. We want you to be safe. We don't want to lose any of our followers or our friends. Okay? Please be careful. May COVID po dyan sa labas. Ingat-ingat, everybody.